Okay, so part 2 here, we're just going to look at the more complicated levels of if. So in the previous video, I showed you how to do an if statement for a simple pass-fail. One question, two possible outcomes, true or false. So I said if test 1 plus test 2 was greater than or equal to the pass mark, then return a pass, otherwise return a fail. So let's have a look at and ifs and or ifs, okay? So an and if or an or if asks two questions and still has a pass or a fail, as in there's still two possible true or false results. So for example, I could say if test 1 and test 2 were greater than or equal to 8, then return a pass, otherwise return a fail. I could also say if test 1 or test 2 was greater than or equal to 8. Okay, so let's deduct our pass mark for a second. And let's say equals if, okay, open brackets, and then I'm using the word and, okay, and I open brackets again. So I'm simply saying that it's an if and it's an and if, meaning I'm going to have two logical questions. And those logical questions are going to go in their own set of brackets, and then I'll press a comma and I will continue as normal. So I'm going to say if and test 1 is greater than or equal to the pass mark. There's my first logical test, comma. My second logical test, test 2, is greater than or equal to the pass mark. Close bracket. So I now have two logical tests, and I'm going to lock my pass mark in place for both so I can copy this down. Two logical tests, and both have to be true in order to return the values. So with my logical tests in their own set of brackets, I'm going to have a comma to separate my value of true. Value of true is pass. Value of false is fail. So close brackets at the end. The only difference between this and the original if is that instead of having one question, I have two questions. And in this case, both have to be true to return a pass. This student passed. Now if I drag that down, I have more students who failed because this student did not get an 8 in test 1. This student didn't get an 8 in test 2. This student didn't get an 8 in either. Didn't get an 8 in test 2, and so on and so forth. So it looks for both results to be greater than or equal to the pass mark. Now an if or, so if I change the word and to the word or, has exactly the same layout, two tests, pass or fail. This time, either test can be true to return the pass value. So if test 1 or test 2 were greater than or equal to 8, then she passes. So in this case, we should see a higher pass rate. And we do. Because this student, test 2 was greater than or equal to 8, test 1 was not. So she passed on the basis of this one. And the same here, and here, and here. So this is an and if and an or if. Now the last criteria is a nested if. Okay. A nested if is where I can have as many questions as I like, but I'm having as many questions as I need in order to have more than two possible results. If we wanted to say, instead of pass or fail, if we wanted to say very good, good, average, if we wanted to give them a grading in that sense, then we would have to have more than one question, because one question can only have two possible outcomes, true or false. So if I have three possible outcomes, I need to have at least two questions. So let's have a go. In this case, this is called a nested if. Equals if. Open brackets. I'm going to ask my first logical test. I'm going to say, I'm actually going to change my pass mark. I can use both tests. Equals if test 1 and test 2 were greater than or equal to, and let's say if it was greater than or equal to 15, okay, then return the value. I'm asking one set of questions and I'm returning a value. Now, because I want to have multiple other options, instead of simply having now a value of false, I'm going to ask another question. So I'm going to say if, open brackets again, C4 plus E4 is greater than or equal to the pass result. So this is outstanding. This one's the pass result. So again, I'm going to lock that in place. I could just add the number there. It's fine. Doesn't really make any difference. Oh, typed an extra cell in, which isn't helpful. Let's go back. If C4 plus E4 is greater than or equal to the pass result, then return the value. Good. Otherwise, return the value average, or I could then have a third question almost to ask another set. So if C4 plus C4 is greater than or equal to 15, then return the value excellent. Otherwise, don't ask a false, ask another question. If C4 plus E4 is greater than or equal to 12, then return the value good. If C4 then return average. Otherwise, return the value poor. And I'm going to close 1, 2, 3 sets of brackets. So I have asked 3 questions and I've got 4 possible outcomes: excellent, good, average, and poor. And the reason that I only have to have 3 questions is because the last question always has the value of true and the value of false. This value of false means that all of these questions were false. So it wasn't excellent, it wasn't good, wasn't average, therefore must be poor. Okay. So if I press enter now, this student gets a grading of excellent. Let's have a look and see. So as I drag it down, I have excellent, excellent, good, poor. So let's have a look. This student here needed to get greater than or equal to 8 to score an average. She scored a 7. So 7, not greater than or equal to 8, not greater than or equal to the pass mark of 12, it's not greater than or equal to 15, the upper benchmark. So she resulted in the poor outcome. So that's the difference between an if, an and an or if, and a nested if.